You are about to opt in to Monerotopia, a show for the Monero community where all are welcome to join. From noob to maxi, no matter what bags you hold. Just sit back and relax to the sweet sounds of Monero's latest progress. Or if you're feeling inspired, join us on stage. Remember, the only thing that can stop Monero is a false belief that it can be stopped. And if you want to win the revolution faster, we recommend you remove your XMR from all custodial exchanges immediately. Warning, voting accidents are common around here. Don't forget to properly secure your private keys. Monerotopia starts now.
All right.
Hey.
Tux, what's going on, man?
What's up? Y'all are back.
Yeah, we're back. We're back in our studio. Trip was amazing. It was fantastic. It was nice to...
That looked like a pretty awesome trip.
Yeah, it was really nice. Get out there, guys. It's, live a little. Highly recommend it. Do some traveling.
The clip of you from last week, riding, what was that, like a moped or motorcycle up the road? That's like travel vlog material or like travel advertisement material right there.
Yeah, we rented that was on Simi Island in Greece. First we went to Rhodes. Rhodes was amazing. Touristy if you go in the wrong parts, but if you like go off the path, like we rented a car in Rhodes and we just drove in the opposite direction of where all the tourists go, like in the main city, and we just like headed in the opposite direction of that.
That's awesome.
Hit up little villages along the way.
Yeah, see some real stuff.
Yeah, it's nice, beautiful. Greece is so nice, man. It's like the one place where I feel like whenever I go, I come back feeling healthier than when I left. Lots of times when you travel, it's like beats you up. But Greece is healing. The combination of the Mediterranean and the food, so good. How about you, man? Any travel plans coming up? I know, obviously, Mexico. That was like your first big trip, right? When you came down to Monerotopia.
Yeah, that was pretty big for me. That was like my first international trip. But I don't have much planned for the summer, which is fine because I took like 3 trips this year already to various places. Okay. So that's fine.
Well, I'm sure there'll be another reason to travel soon, Monero related at some point.
Oh yeah, of course.
So yeah, what do we got, man? I haven't really been paying much attention to crypto in general, other than last week's Monerotopia show. Did I miss anything big, or I feel like it's kind of doldrums in general, right? Not much going on.
Yeah, nothing going on. We have some ETF stuff, that Binance drama, Bitcoin Cash going crazy. But
yeah,
I think,
what was that all about? Bitcoin Cash like tripled in price?
Yeah, I don't know all the details, but it basically tripled in price within like a week, which is like insane. And we're not really in much of a crazy bull market.
But that had to do with like the ETF stuff.
I think it had. I don't remember the exact details. I think it had something to do with it. I'm sure Bawdy probably could talk about that a lot better.
Bawdy will give us some insight into that.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Yeah. Let's get the show on the road.
All right. Well, then I guess that's Bawdy. All right. Price report time. Let's go.
Do it.
The Monerotopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Local Monero. Avoid using KYC exchanges. Buy and sell Monero directly for fiat, peer-to-peer.
Bawdy, you there?
Good morning.
Hey.
What's going on, man?
How are you guys doing?
Good. Chilling. Just readjusting to the time zone over here.
Trying to fathom how Bcash put on 3x miraculously in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, I totally missed that.
Oh yeah, you got it up there, sweet. Yeah.
No,
I barely looked into it, so I didn't want to say anything that would probably be like not completely correct. And I'm like, oh, you're coming up next. You definitely could talk all about that for probably hours if you wanted to.
Well, with the 3x like this, I'm not sure that there's much that you could say that would be definitely certainly correct, because like, how does this happen? Let's do a quick measurement here. In 10 days, yeah, this thing went up 211%, which would be slightly over 3x.
That's
It's
like
kind of hanging out. Go ahead.
Oh, that was it. That's like stupid. Like, how does that even happen?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it depends on who you ask. If you ask the Bcash community, they'll tell you that it's organic adoption. Like, I don't know if y'all have seen that Pepe meme where he's like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
you know, it's like, it's the guy, he's like got the green face and he's got his hands on his throat. He's like, oh, organic adoption when price pumps, and then, you know, when it's crashing, it's like Pepe screaming like, no. So yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to believe that this is entirely real. Like one thing I usually say is that the markets get front run. Like, all these exchanges have a very good visibility into both on-chain flows and what's happening on their exchanges. So when they see movements being made into whichever coin, they can front run those things. It even happens on like Ethereum as a DEX. You've got these like, well, they call it miner extractable value, where they can see the orders. They'll get their order in like milliseconds ahead of yours, or in the case of Ethereum, they'll order the block. But in the case of these exchanges, like, they're so shady, they're so dirty, and they don't have hardly any of these regulations. So, I mean, I have to believe they're pulling every dirty trick in the book. But what they'll do, presumably, is they get their orders in milliseconds ahead of yours, and they just do this in aggregate over and over. So there probably is a significant component of organic buying here that pushed the price up. But did it push it up 3x? No, that was something else going on. I can't remember. Maybe it was BlackRock, or it was some really big institution that added Bcash to their exchange, or I don't think they're live yet, but they're like a major institution that's creating an exchange. And I wish I could remember the name of it right now, but they basically said that they're going to also add Bcash because it's also not a security. So that's, I think, you know, that's kind of what's going on there.
Like good sentiment for them.
Yeah,
Bawdy,
exactly.
Somebody said an exchange that's adding it, is what you said?
Yeah, it's like, I couldn't tell, and I only kind of cursory glanced at it, but it looks like a major institution that's forming some kind of exchange for a very limited number of coins. Obviously, Bitcoin was on there. I think maybe it had Litecoin as well, but then they added Bitcoin Cash, and that was like right before this big pump happened. So, okay. Yeah. You know, one thing I wanted to kind of salute the Bcash community. They finally have embraced the name Bcash, like they use it themselves now. So it's
yeah. I always felt like, guys, what's the big deal? Like, it's just a short way of saying it. I never understood that.
I guess it started originally. It was a pejorative thing that people were trying to. I mean, because they were in a big fight to keep Bitcoin in the title, right? They wanted to. Yeah. No, the branding was. So, anyways, but yeah, I see it on Twitter now. A lot of them they promote Bcash as Bcash, which is great. Like, it just rolls off the tongue better. It sounds better. It's better marketing. So,
I mean, calling it Bitcoin Cash just never. I mean, what
that
makes
like confuses people?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever.
And it's cumbersome to say.
Yeah, it's cumbersome.
I mean, you know, Monero also has 3 syllables, but we're very venerable and respected. So, you know, we get 3 syllables.
Yeah, but labeling it as cash never really made much sense. I mean, I get it's arguably more cash-like than Bitcoin, but it's still, you know, it's not like it's default private and fungible, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, to their credit, though, it does seem like they've got maybe, is it 60 or 70% of their transactions are all rolling through Cash Fusion, which is like a coin join. So the majority of their network is just repeatedly being coin joined. Which is more than we could say for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I didn't know that high. Cakewallet talking about adding that to Cakewallet for Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah, it's a pretty good deal. I mean, I guess, you know, that's what you can do when you have extra space. Actually, have space in your blocks to do some useful stuff.
Yeah, I didn't realize 60 to 70% of all Bcash transactions go through the Cash Fusion thing. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, it's more than 50%. I don't remember exactly what the number was, but it was definitely up there.
Now, so did other coins pump as well, or is it just Bcash? Was there?
Not really. I mean, we saw some coins, like Maker was a big coin that's let's see here, Maker USDT. Maker took a pretty big pump here from, I don't know, I think it was like 50%, almost a 2x. As far as some of the other coins that I look at, just like randomly, and this is just a spattering. I only felt like doing 8, and I made this script like 9 months ago or something. Sol, looks like Sol has been doing pretty good this week. Everything else is like just kind of down. Monero's actually overall for the past couple weeks has been doing better than most everything else. But overall, like this week in crypto was pretty just flat in general. Like here's Bitcoin. One thing that I did want to point out to you guys. So this on the bottom here, this is the GBTC premium. So if y'all remember, Grayscale has a trust in which they hold Bitcoin, and then they also have a token that represents that trust that's traded on the NASDAQ. They can only buy Bitcoins into the trust, but they're not allowed to sell Bitcoins out of the trust. So what happened was that the token on the NASDAQ started trading, and it's always done this. It's always traded at a different price than the spot value of the Bitcoin in the trust. And ideally, you would think it would trade, at the same, but because they can't actually sell Bitcoin out of the trust, it doesn't act properly like a spot ETF, which is obviously what Fidelity and everyone is, BlackRock and everyone is filing for. But one of the big things that that sort of clued me in that we were headed for a bear market back in 2021 when everyone was still like uber bullish was that this had dropped to like negative 20% already. Like you'll see this right here. So when we were like midsummer, October, I kept saying, where's the institutional FOMO? Why wouldn't they buy a Bitcoin, the GBTC token or, tradable ETN on the stock market at like a 20% discount or 15% discount? And this thing has only continued to get more negative. So it means that the stock market only believes that this, that the value of the spot, the value of Bitcoin, at least as tradable on the stock market, is like minus 50%. So one thing that we really would want to see happen, to be convinced that maybe we're going into a new bull market, we really want to see this thing come back to a 0 point, because for most of the history of Bitcoin being on, or the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, and I know it's kind of weird with the language because it's technically not an ETF, even though you can trade it on the stock market. Like it's an ETN, but it's not a spot ETF. They're not allowed to like buy and sell and track the price of Bitcoin exactly like a proper ETF would, which is again why we get this like weird oscillations where sometimes it's trading like you can see this is 60% right here, and at some points it's even trading twice the value of the actual Bitcoin in that trust. So anyways, you can see this goes back to like 2015. So to be convinced that we're like actually headed into a new bull market, like on a more long-term basis, you really want to see this thing go back at least to 0, because in the past, it's actually traded higher than the spot value. So an interesting thing that has been happening for the past couple of weeks, really ever since BlackRock filed for their ETF, is that this has been trending up. So right now, this is like one of the few really major positive signs that I see for crypto. So we'll talk a little bit more maybe about, I don't think that the top is in. Like if I had to give it odds, I don't think that the top is in for Bitcoin or for crypto in general. But I don't like these kind of BART patterns. So, okay, we had like this descending wedge, and then we just with extreme momentum just broke out of the top, and basically what amounts to a BART chart. And so this is like Bart Simpson, right? You've got the left head, you kind of do this choppy thing. And usually when you say Bart, you imply that you're going to come back down to the other side. I don't necessarily think that that's going to happen, but this chart definitely has, it's just the same old BS that we've seen over and over again, where markets just massively pump in one go, and then they just trade sideways and flat. And then there's like these fake out wicks to the downside. There's these fake out wicks to the upside. I don't like this price action, because to me, organic price action that supports continuous strong price movement should have pullbacks, and it shouldn't just be this same pattern that we see over and over again. Like we can go back here, we can see the same kind of thing happened here. Okay, we spiked up sideways, and then kind of sideways action, come down, and then kind of the same thing again, spike up massively. I mean, I know that was the banking crisis, but then everything was just sideways, sideways, sideways. There's like this fake out to the top side, and then it comes right back down, right? This right here is kind of like a BART pattern. And so then things just kind of bled out for a while until out of nowhere, I guess organically, the market just decided on June 20th that it's just going to mega pump, to the upside. And it's not even really a mega pump. It's only like 15%. Anyways, I just don't like the way the action feels. like if this really was this strong, like if it was that much organic buying and people were just that excited about Bitcoin, don't you think there should have been some follow through? We should have at least hit the most obvious resistance.
No, it was me.
point,
I bought all that Bitcoin.
That was you. Damn, bro. Well, why? Like, I trust you got that it wasn't from Monero. I trust it was like from an outside job.
It's so I can trade it to Monero. So it's going to go back down in a day.
Cool. Oh, okay. All right. Well, you heard it here first. Got the inside tips. Be careful about the SEC. They might come after you for insider trading or something. You know, just be careful. You know, they're going after people. Okay. Anyways.
For legal reasons, that was a joke.
Yeah. Okay. I guess let's take a look at the dominance on Bitcoin right here. So you know, again, we kind of peaked out at this, like the first spot that we thought we might, which was kind of that April low years and years ago, 2019, before it really shot up. I really don't expect that Bitcoin is going to do this right here, where it, in the mid-cycle peak last bear market, that would be June of 2019. You know, Bitcoin just shot to the top side, and then dominance just like crush it. And one of the reasons that dominance crushed it so much back then was this scam called Plus Token Ponzi. They had gobbled up like 1% of all Bitcoin. And then the day that they were shut down by Chinese authorities, so-called authorities, was the day that the market peaked, like the literal day, which was June 19th. I think it was June 19th, 2019. Maybe it was June 17th. Doesn't matter. Right at the end of June in 2019, the day that they shut down that scam is the day that Bitcoin peaked for that like mid-cycle pump. So this is one of the big reasons we saw dominance back then do this just massive run, because they gobbled up 1% of the Bitcoin and they traded hardly anything else. So unless there's some kind of like major Ponzi or fundamental reason, I'm not sure that we'll see the dominance do this kind of move towards 72%. I think that somewhere in the neighborhood where we're at currently is probably the most we could expect. If we really wanted to get like, I don't know, fantastical about our predictions here, we could probably break through that and maybe get up to 57, right? Just because that's such an easy spot right there. And sometimes this kind of stuff does happen. Like this happened, right? This dominance pump happened in 2020. That was mostly just market makers trying to convince the market that it was game on right before we entered the 2021 long-term blow-off season. So yeah, that's basically where the crypto markets are at. Ethereum, Bitcoin is maybe forming a bottoming pattern. It was strong up here, and then it just kind of crashed to the downside again with all the SEC threats and all that stuff. But you could also say that this right here is forming a very long-term bullish divergence. So, you know, we're looking at this. You've got higher lows on the momentum scores, but you've got lower lows on the price. So this is already looking potentially like bullish divergence. And especially if we see Ethereum, Bitcoin revisit this spot right here, we should definitely expect that that's going to go up long term. Still need, you know, probably a few more weeks to confirm that. We really do want to see if that's going to come back to this line. But this kind of action right here, in combination with this divergence, would really signal that Ethereum is going to be strong against Bitcoin, going into sort of like the more long term towards the end of the year, maybe into early next year. Let's go ahead and take a look at Monero in that case. So last week I showed you guys these moving averages. So that's what all this white stuff is here. Actually, let's hide the drawings. Okay, so that makes it a little bit easier to see. And we'll turn that off as well. Okay, so you can basically see, again, this is like a long-term chart, but we basically, Monero price just kind of trended between these sort of compressing moving averages. And this is not any one particular moving average because it's arbitrary which one you select. So you just overlay all of them. You'll notice that there's kind of like these gaps. That's because I have some cool filtering built into this so that it doesn't, actually, let me just show you what it looks like without the filter. And then it'll look like normal moving averages after we do this. Okay, so this is just a whole bunch of different moving averages overlaid on top of each other. So basically, like, yeah, I mean, there's kind of like this cluster that sort of formed a support, and then we've just been trending. You can see there's sort of this other cluster right here, and price is really just oscillating, trending around that. I would probably suspect that until a new bull market breaks out, you know, like maybe next year, maybe 2025, I would expect that price is probably going to be mostly constrained by this band, by this sort of compression here. You know, we really have had the Monero price, the USD price. You can see that it's it's basically becoming constrained in terms of volatility. So at some point, usually when your volatility becomes constrained, that's usually like kind of a compression. It's kind of like the theory on this is that the market is always searching for the true price of an asset. And so eventually, well, I should say two things. The market is always searching for the true price of an asset, which kind of implies speculation of some sort. So what'll happen is you'll get some big volatile move, and then you'll have lowering volatility for the next months or even sometimes years to come, where the market sort of settles on a price that they think the asset is. But at some point, the volatility is so low and so much time has passed that people reevaluate their speculation, and the market in aggregate speculates towards a new price direction. So it acts kind of like a spring when you see this compressing volatility. So maybe something like that, and then it ultimately breaks out and has another major volatile move. At least that's like some of the theory on volatility analysis for markets. So yeah, I mean, at the moment, Monero had a really nice move. We talked about that last week, and we've kind of just been flat ever since. I don't think this move is over. I think it's very, very likely we could probably get to 190, to the top of these moving average clusters. Maybe there's some other short-term patterns to try and find in here. Let's go down to, I guess this is the 2-hour. Yeah, I mean, there's not too much exciting going on with this chart. We could, let's mute those. All right, and then we could try and I don't know, draw some lines. I'm not sure how valid any of these lines are. Lines are always slightly questionable, slightly dubious. Yeah, there's kind of slightly a channel going on here. Again, nothing exciting. One cool thing that we have seen is that XMR has continued to do well against Ethereum. I really did think that, well, I wasn't too sure, if it seemed like Ethereum was strong, but I guess with all the SEC stuff, a lot of the movement and hype for some of this stuff really got put on hold, which Monero has kind of been a beneficiary to the tune of about 15%. So this definitely right here now looks suspiciously like a bottoming pattern. You would almost want to call that a W pattern, but not quite. I don't think you could call it a W, so kind of down here, up. And then right now we're kind of retesting that level, this spot right here. So yeah, I mean, Monero versus Ethereum is looking okay-ish, not as good as we might hope. The price divergences have been basically flat, nothing really exciting here. We left off last week, we would have left off right around here. So kind of just been oscillating around zero. Not really anything to look at there. One cool thing that we can look at, however, is the market cap dominance at XMR.D. So, okay, so we've got, kind of like this broadening structure right here. We almost slightly broke through. And again, so we kind of almost broke through, came back down, and then it stopped halfway, and we're already on our way up to this line again. So that signals that this line is probably getting ready to be broken on a more permanent basis. But the thing that stuck out to me that I noticed today was you might call this a head and shoulders, or I should say an inverse head and shoulders, right? So that sort of right shoulder here on the inverse portion is being formed. And I mean, yeah, hypothetically, that could imply a target. Let's just do that measurement here. So those would be the shoulders. Actually, I think I did that wrong. Those would be the shoulders right there. And then we would measure from the top to where that is. And that would imply, hypothetically, a target of another 3 to 4x for Monero price versus the rest of crypto. Now, whether we could actually make it that far, whether XMRD could actually go from 0.26 of the crypto market, 0.26% of the crypto market, all the way up to, I guess that would be about 0.8. I'm not sure if we could really make it that far, but maybe, right? I mean, there is stuff going on with Monero that could signal to us that important things could be happening with our price. And it's another reason I hodl, because I mean, with the way that there's so much shady stuff that goes on in the background, I just refuse to be left out in the cold if Monero is going to make some mega pump out of nowhere. And it stands to reason that it might do that at some point. Who knows if some big name person has some big need of Monero, or CZ gets shut down and he knows that his only escape hatch is to get into the only real digital cash out there, etc. Anyways, I just thought it was interesting that we've got kind of an inverse head and shoulders pattern, very, very large inverse head and shoulders starting from 2021, really starting from the end of 2020. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. And then Monero Bitcoin. Go ahead if one of you guys had something to say there.
No. That's exciting to see. I mean, how well formed is that pattern? Like, is it like?
I would say it's pretty good. Like,
Okay.
honestly, like that definitely looks like this is definitely looking like a head and shoulders. We kind of need to see a little bit more follow through on this side, up here, just to sort of confirm that. But I mean, that's definitely that's a pretty well formed head and shoulders. It's not perfect, but you could definitely call it that. And again, all of these, like, and people say TA is just astrology for dudes, and they're not entirely wrong. It's useful. It's statistical. It doesn't always play out. Things can go to a totally different side. It's also why I think that you should be integrating TA with other analysis, like macro analysis, sentiment analysis, things like that. I can't remember who it was, but I remember asking or reading someone. It was a video that I watched, and I don't know. It was like some old, like, insider stock market guy. Did a lot of like liquidity providing, market making, stuff like that, and also worked for hedge funds. And so someone asked them. He said, "Listen, do you how much do you guys, as a hedge fund, you're investing billions and billions of dollars? Do y'all use technical analysis?" And he said, "Well, the thing is, when you're dealing with that much money, you end up moving the market. And for the most part, like, we don't have access. Like, the short-term traders, yeah, you can find little patterns. You can get in and out of the market. You're not going to induce slippage. You're not going to move the market against yourself, etc. But when you're dealing with this kind of cash, you really have to make fundamental decisions on where to invest the cash. So you look at the companies, you decide, which ones are going to be worthwhile over the course of very long periods of time, years, even decades." And he said, "Now, we will use TA sometimes." He said, "If they tell us, okay, it's time to get into a position for a long-term position, and we want you to acquire this position over the course of a few months." He said, yeah, we'll use TA to try and time our buys to try and get the best entry price we can. But what I took from that is that, yeah, I mean, even the big guys know that TA has some validity to it. It's just that unless you're, if you're playing around with, say, $1 million or less, like, you're really not going to move the markets that much against you, and you can exploit TA more than more than the big hedge funds. So, anyways, that's just kind of like a side piece on TA. I'll say one more thing about it. So the regression analysis that we've talked about since, like, forever here, that's also technical analysis. That's all that is. That's just applying numbers and lines and stuff to a chart. And it works. Like, it works, and you can prove that it works statistically, right? I can prove in a very, like, clear fashion with statistics that we've been using for decades, really 100 years, that it is better than chance, right? And that's really the only reason that you use TA is that you're trying to get something better than chance. So let's just pull it up really quick, just so that everyone can make sure that they can see what I mean here. I don't know what that line is for. Okay, this is that regression analysis on Bitcoin. We've been looking at this forever. It basically nailed the top to within 1% back in April 2021. And again, this is statistically provably better than chance. Like, it doesn't have to hold up. Like, it can break down. Like, it's just a statistical model, but it does help you make decisions in a way that are going to get you better than chance decisions. So that's the only reason we do TA. Yes, it is slightly like astrology for guys, especially if done in dubious fashion. But okay, just a side rant on why TA is actually important, and it's one among many pieces that you should integrate into your analysis. Okay, so with that,
statistics at the end of the day. But I mean, I guess there's two problems: one, people not properly applying it, and two, people using their own biases as they do it. Right? Like, that's the hard part.
Oh yeah,
take your own personal bias out of the interpretations, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I posted on Twitter a few days ago, or maybe like last week, like, if you really want to, like, hit the ego and, like, try and figure out where your biases are and all kinds of stuff, and see if your market paradigm actually lines up with reality, try to become a trader, right? You don't even have to put that much money into it. Like, if you have a portfolio of, say, $100,000, put $1,000 into a trading account, and then see if you can, like, time the market at least on a weeks to months long basis, right? Like, okay, if you're doing algorithmic short-term purely TA trading, you're not going to put your market paradigm up against any real test because you're just doing an algorithmic thing. But, like, if you really want to, like, see if your market paradigm is good and reveal your biases and, like, reveal where you might have some ego getting in the way and emotions getting in the way, like start trading. You'll find really quickly like just how much you have to work on that to keep it from like becoming a hindrance. I know, I mean, I'm just speaking from the school of hard knocks here. I've done this like a lot, you know, where you learn eventually to like look at your emotions and say, okay, what is my emotion saying? And how is that different from what my intellect is saying? And what kind of signal does that give me? So, you know, maybe speaking a little bit about emotions, let's talk a little bit about the sentiment. So there's a BRICS meeting in August. The BRICS are the Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And they've been around meeting since like before Bitcoin existed. And they've been talking about replacing the dollar since forever. But this time in August, I promise they're going to do it. They're going to release a BRICS currency, gold-backed BRICS currency. And that's going to take us into the promised land. And so I expect, and obviously I'm joking here, but I expect these kinds of narratives to start popping up around August when this meeting happens. And I've actually seen the sentiment almost in unison for the entirety of crypto turn positive. Like all the old rats are coming out of the woodwork. You know, I'm seeing their tweets now, and they're not so ashamed of themselves anymore. they definitely still should be. But anyways, so I am seeing kind of like sentiment change into a unison direction that does make me a bit concerned. That doesn't mean that I think it's necessarily the top here. I do think on balance of probabilities, Bitcoin has another higher high to make. I even have some friends that I respect that think it's going to like 45 or 50. In my mind, that's too easy. Too many people have a break-even level there. It's just like 100,000 in 2021. 100,000 was way too easy, and like a bunch of normie friends that I like, because, you know, I sample people in Telegram groups and stuff like that, and friends in real life. And a lot of them were like, I'm going to take some profit at 100,000, you know, but really I might just take it at like 90,000, right? Front run it. And then we didn't even get to 90,000. Like we only made to 70. So, okay. If something similar happens here with this like big 50,000 number that's starting to emerge in people's minds, are we going to make it to 50? Are we even going to make it to 45? So that's, you know, it's hard to trade off of that. You know, but it is kind of one piece that I look at. I don't like when I see the market get totally bearish or totally bullish. That's usually spells opportunity for some deep pockets insiders. So anyways, we've got the BRICS thing coming up in August. You'll probably start seeing more of that pop up on like Twitter and stuff. Let's see. Oh, Brazil releases some code for an ERC20 CBDC. Ooh. So it's all written in Solidity. So Solidity is like the native coding language of Ethereum. So it looks like Brazil is going to experiment with the CBDC on top of Ethereum, which is, of course, should be no surprise to anyone here. That's like basically kind of the things we've been expecting for months now. This is huge. Like in my mind, especially if they actually make this thing go live on Ethereum as a layer 2, holy crap. Like that's massively more important than the El Salvador compromised Chivo wallet that they did. So important little piece of news there. Next week, we're going to get some CPI numbers. Those have mattered less and less lately. Actually, let's just take a look at it really quick. If we get some major drop, like we could definitely see, like if there's a major drop, we could definitely see, if I can find it. Oh, it was right here, of course. Yeah, I mean, that really like has the potential to propel the markets to another higher high. I'm not sure that it will drop, but okay, so the white is the CPI numbers. We're basically almost back in trend. Like, so from this entire area from the early 2000s, CPI is basically back in trend. The producer price index is now back in trend in blue. The orange line, which is the core inflation, and that's the one the Federal Reserve cares about the most, is a lot more sticky. That's going to be hard. You can see that's still pretty high. It was only since like the early 90s that was actually this high. So really, it's that core inflation that we need to see come back down. I wouldn't expect too much to happen in that regard. The numbers could come down, but maybe the market will trade some volatility around the release of the numbers, but I don't think it will be too big of a deal. And let's go ahead and take a look at the dollar, because we did talk about the BRICS and replacing the dollar allegedly. That's the S&P. All right, here's the dollar index. Okay, so really like nothing too big has happened since last week. We kind of said, hey, this flattened out, you know, we'll probably get some resistance here, maybe like chop sideways, you know. I don't think the dollar is quite ready to break out just yet. It tends to move on slow timelines. I mean, for one, just because it's such a massive market, there's so much liquidity there that these markets don't move as fast. Whenever you have massive liquidity, it's hard to move the price. So, but still, nonetheless, the dollar is setting up here for some kind of rebound to the top side. I think eventually could be September, October, could be August. But, again, like as we see the narratives and the sentiment move more and more clearly in one direction, the more outlandish it gets, the more obnoxious the, the players get there about their moon bags. You can expect that those are all counter signals, right? Those are signals of a top. So we'll be watching the dollar very closely. It would be amazing to see the dollar break out and then also see Bitcoin make a new all-time high and then see the dollar keep going up, because that's what happened last time in 2021 right before the end of the bull market. We've got the repurchase agreements, and the interesting thing to me here is that repurchase agreements have continued to go down, even recently by, I guess we'll just call that about $200 billion, $150, $200 billion, even as the stock markets are kind of struggling. As the stock markets are struggling to make new higher highs, right? This is the NASDAQ. Things came up. So even though that the reverse repos have been coming down, which is kind of like cash leaving the Federal Reserve, just parked there for a low interest rate, where's that cash going exactly? Because it doesn't look like it went into the stock market all that much. And then if we take a look at bonds, here we go. Here's the 10-year bond, and the rest of the bond market looks very similar. So this is the rates, right? The interest rate, it is inverse to the value of bonds overall. So overall, the value of bonds has been dropping as the rates have been rising. So that money hasn't been going into bonds. It hasn't been going into the stock market. Maybe it's been going into new bonds. I don't know, but I'm curious about where that money actually has gone. This is kind of an important chart right here that we should stop for a moment. The 10-year yield formed this like falling wedge here, and it just broke out of that this past week. So I think this is the market anticipating at least one or two more rate hikes from the Federal Reserve. These tend to be a little bit more stable, but sometimes they can just like make crazy big moves. This crazy rise in interest rates was not a good thing. Normally when bond rates rise, that means that money is leaving bonds and going into the stock market. But I mean, I don't know where, again, like, okay, if there's money leaving bonds and the stock market is flat or slightly down, and then gold is also basically flat here for the whole week, I'm just curious where that money might be going. There's probably an answer there somewhere, and I just haven't been able to think of it. So with that, I think that's
go to Bcash.
It all went to Bcash. Oh man. That's a good one. You should post that. You'll be an instant favorite in the Bcash community.
I'll have to buy some Bcash first. Cool, Matt. What else we got? I mean, that was a extensive overview there. Anything else?
Sorry, I didn't. I was like, it's going to be short today. I don't have much to say. Oops.
Trading lessons with Bawdy.
Yeah, no worries. Anything else you want to throw out there?
Let's see. I always forget to check the YouTube comments. So was there any questions there? I haven't looked. I'm so bad at the YouTube comments.
One guy was saying, well, the Bcash pump. What did he say?
Launch of EDX markets.
What's that?
Go ahead.
Launch of EDX markets backed by Fidelity, Citadel, Schwab, which listed BCH and BSV. Yeah.
Oh, man, maybe you should get some Satoshi's vision going on. They listed BSV. What the?
So I guess BSV make a pump too, I would think.
You know what? Let's check it. I mean, I can understand. Okay, I can get Bcash. Like I got that, but BSV? What the hell, guys? Like, how is
getting
that
a little
possible?
out there for sure?
They only had a 1.5x pump. Wah, wah.
Only 1.5.
I mean, BCH is understandable. Like Bitcoin Cash was the main fork, in a very contentious time. That is still like, I mean, from our perspective, the non-fork side was basically wrong. Like the block size should have been raised by now. But then like BSV was just a liar. That's like a vexatious litigant in court. It's amazing that that Craig Wright hasn't been sanctioned. Like, because he gets on stand and he lies and he says all this stuff. Like, how's he not been sanctioned or faced consequences for all the lies that he's told in court? It makes me wonder about who he might really be.
Oh, who do you think he might really be?
I don't know. Like, how does he just jet around the whole world lying in court and not face consequences? What kind of people can do that, you know? And who are those people connected to usually?
But then
It's
what's the motive? Like, what is he trying to do? Like, what are they, or the people behind him trying to do? Like, what's the? I think.
I mean, if I was
go ahead.
if I was going to go crank theory, I would say that they want him to basically cause problems and disruptions. He serves like a polarizing figure to sort of harden the maximalist side into their maximalist camp and be like, "Oh no, look how obviously stupid he is, and we're right," and and then also to divide the Bcash community as well, because you can't have, you don't want Bitcoin actually becoming usable or popular with number go up enough that encourages people to adopt and use it. You would like people to stay in the compromise chain, which doesn't have any scaling, where Lightning's not working. It's been 5 years. And now there's like DGen NFTs. I'm not like, I wouldn't even put myself 50% on that theory. Maybe I'd put 50%, but I do just stop and ask myself, like, could there be something going on? Could this guy be like some kind of like agent, disinformation agent, or something along those lines?
Maybe,
I don't necessarily
maybe.
think
But if he is, he's doing a bad job. Like, he's not having much of an impact, He's just it's just him and the project are just considered clownish, right? I mean,
well, the BSV project definitely is considered clownish, but for the time period that he's not really relevant anymore, but for the time period he was relevant, he did a pretty good job of like hardening emotionally maxis into hating Bcash. And he did a pretty good job of splitting, maybe not that great of a job, but he did split the Bcash community after the fact. So I feel like he's just
a crazy narcissist who was, early in Bitcoin.
Yeah, this is probably one of those the simple explanation is the real explanation.
Yeah, that's where I would go with that.
I mean, I do like to entertain, the multiple possibilities there, just because, if you hadn't thought of it, you can, you just want to at least consider it. But I don't know.
All right, man. Let's move it on. Moving on. I want to get outside today. It's hot as hell here in New York.
Cool. Well,
sweet. Thanks, Bawdy,
for the opportunity. Thanks for the time. And,
Bawdy, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. Maybe we'll get that 3x Monero pump one of these days.
Yes, heck yeah, I'm ready for it.
I think we're all ready for it. Monero, actually, I don't know. We wouldn't even know what to do, right? There'd be like, what? Monero community just so used to.
Yeah, they'd be like, why is it going up? It can't.
Yeah.
This is not okay.
Everybody would be upset. Like, no. All right, man. What do we got next?
Ready for dev segment with DGoon? All right, let's do it.
And now for the Monero development segment.
Hey, how's it going?
DGoon.
Hey, DGoon. What's up, man?
Nothing much. I'm in DC, so it's also hot here. So I definitely feel you on that, Doug.
Right, hot. I mean, Greece was hot, but I guess I was like, I was at the beach every day. Here, it's like
it's hot.
In New York's hot. It's just kind of miserable because it's also muggy too. It's not dry heat.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's super humid where I live. So even when I went to Mexico, it was pretty warm, but it was like dry, so it didn't feel bad. But then I came back home, and I'm actually like, holy crap, it's like way hotter here.
Yeah. I like the heat. I like the summer, but I just want to, I'd rather be out on the beach, swimming in the ocean. Although now there's sharks everywhere in New York on Long Island. It's like insane. Like crazy amount of sharks.
You can't write this stuff.
5 people got bit by sharks in like the last week.
In like New York? What?
Yeah, in New York on the Long Island beaches. Bit, like not like sea shark, like they got it like shark bites.
It's like nightmare.
They weren't great whites or I don't know, man killers, but still people getting nibbed at by. I'll be that guy, man. I love swimming in the when I go, I don't like bait. Like I swim. I swim far. Like I would like fuck. No, I can't swim in the ocean. Shark bait.
Can't do anything these days.
I don't know, man. I'm some. I don't know. I think the aliens are behind that one. I don't know what's going on.
But let's make sure Doug gets to go. Maybe I should take a long time. That way you don't go outside and swim. That maybe you don't get bitten.
My life. You're probably saving my life.
Well, today we have a sort of long one because I did some research into cool ways to get Monero because I run a business in Monero, so I have the opposite problem, like have to like use sell Monero to like fund the business. So I did the research into like what are ways people actually should get Monero. They want to get it, they can exchange it, and all those things like that.
Nice.
And this is recently because I started researching like Havana. I don't know anything about Havana, so I was like, they do some research into this. Then it spread into everything like from Sarai into atomic swaps. I decided to put like a very quick like TLDR into like the current meta for buying Monero and without an exchange and the things coming on the horizon, the status of atomic swaps, the status of Havana, Haven, and Sarai, pretty much.
All right.
But yeah, so this is slightly inspiring. I saw someone posted SideShift suddenly dropped Monero support. No one in Monero space is surprised or stressed. It's not a big deal. This literally happens all the time. But then, this happens all the time with Binance. These things delist. Monero gets delisted all the time. It's just way of being in the crypto space. Then that made me think about ways to get Monero, which aren't on an exchange. And the main way that I knew about before I did this research was like local Monero, all right? And if you haven't learned local Monero, I don't know where you've been. It's like, to my knowledge, the most highest volume way to get Monero. I don't know if it actually competes with BISC. Like at least culturally speaking, local Monero is much more popular in Monero space. And basically, local Monero works is it's a centralized peer-to-peer. It's a platform, but the admins run the platform and they hold the money. Currently, hopefully that will change when Monero gets popular multi-sig. I saw you guys are working on multi-sig for the.
I don't know. Tux,
all right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I was just doing some unrelated reading on GitHub, but yeah,
we are working on a Monero-based marketplace that will have multi-sig.
I didn't even put you on blast. I just saw Tuxedo's response to the CSS. So
The information's out there. We're just not talking about too much because we don't, just like with the Nodo, don't want to talk until we have something to show. Nodo, obviously, we're there. Monero, this new project, we got some climbing to do, right, Tux? But the guy working on it is pretty. He's first working on this multi-sig implementation. And so if you can get that, then we'll proceed with the rest of it and try to be. I mean, as far as I know, there's really no trustless escrow Monero marketplace, right?
Yeah, no, period.
There's Monero market that has escrow, but it's not trustless. So we're trying to implement that. And we found somebody who thinks he can pull it off. So. But yeah, we don't want to say much more because we don't want to toot our own horn before we get there. That
makes sense. Sorry, I didn't even put you on blast.
No worries. It's good.
Yeah.
The information. It's better coming from somebody else than from us.
But yeah, basically, local Monero, like Doug said, is still centralized in the manner that you have to trust them not to steal your funds. Like Doug said, also, there's currently no decentralized peer-to-peer. There's no multi-sig decentralized Monero platform yet because multi-signature has a long history in Monero. It was working for a while, then there was a bug, then it got dropped, and it's a long, complicated history. And Doug's team is working. Well, I don't want to.
Yeah, I'm not technical enough, but you can do multi-sig in Monero.
Yes,
Rhino, right, is doing some interesting things with multi-sig. But as far as I know, nobody has done multi-sig escrow on in a marketplace or on a platform like something like local Monero. That doesn't exist yet.
Yes, you are 100% correct.
Because it's difficult to implement multi-sig.
Yeah, difficult for users to use. What wallet do you use? Because it's currently not supported by the Monero GUI. So it's So it's completely correct. But this is the most popular way I see, culturally speaking, most mentioned way is to use local Monero to pretty much. And it's a way. The good thing about local Monero is you can pretty much mail someone cash in the mail, and they'll give you Monero. which I think is probably the better way than using something like your bank account, Venmo, or Cash App. It's more anonymous, things like that. So this is one of the most popular ways to get Monero right now. But and once you have that Monero, you can use something like Cakewallet. And Trocador is a really cool app that pretty much lets you. So first step is to get fiat to Monero or Bitcoin or something. And Trocador allows you to swap into any other coin from that. Basically, what they do is they go to all these swap services and they aggregate them for you. Pretty much it's sort of like the Google of swap services. You go in there and they give you like, this one has 5 stars, it has 4 stars, this one's the cheapest. And you can pretty much shop around, do that. And really cool thing is super easy to use. Cakewallet has it integrated currently also. So once you get your Monero, fiat to crypto, you can get any coin you want, which is pretty much, I think, the current meta for doing this. I think it's pretty popular way of doing it. Is that right, Doug?
What, people using Trocador? Yeah.
Yeah, pretty popular, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, it's one of the, I guess, the major swap services. But like you said, what's nice about it is they aggregate all of them, right? So it's like you're getting, I guess, the best trade at that time when you go to swap, right? Because they're finding the best price, whatever. Yeah.
So that's the current meta for if you want to have you have fiat, you want to get Monero, you want to get Bitcoin, you want to do something else. But now I'm going to go into some decentralized options, which are generally more experimental, maybe a little less reliable, but they're decentralized. So you don't have to worry about too much third-party risk. Now, I would say the most popular decentralized option right now is, I guess, fortunately or unfortunately, Bisq. But I'm thinking what Bisq is pretty much like a decentralized marketplace. You have to install an app, run a node, do all these things. But the bad thing I don't like about it is that you can't go from fiat to Monero because Bisq is currently Bitcoin focused. So in order to get Bitcoin from Cash, you have to go fiat to Bitcoin, then Bitcoin to Monero, which makes it much harder to get the Monero, makes the liquidity pools lower, probably higher prices. But Bisq is a decentralized option that's pretty popular in general. And someone a couple years ago, I think 2 years ago, saw the issue and basically Havino, I don't want to pronounce it wrong. You know how to pronounce it, Doug?
Havino.
Yep. It's basically a fork of Bisq that's made to be Monero specific. So you probably heard it around a lot. I heard it around a lot. I didn't know what the difference was between Bisq, Havino, and these other projects. I'm just giving a quick overview of them. And the current status is I think it's being worked on. Last I checked, they were actually acquired by Cakewallet or
at Monero. Really? There was well, I don't know, acquired. They're, I guess, funding the development. They had some issues, if you remember, with funding. They raised money, but then the price of Monero went down, and
I think they suspended it like last year, didn't they? The development of it.
Yeah, but at Monerotopia, we had the main guy, the main dev presented it, and so they're pretty much there. I think that they've launched the testnet, right? I believe.
Yeah, and I believe testnet's live, and I looked at their GitHub, and I think Woodser, who was a Monero core dev, had committed like 2 weeks ago, so it's very much alive.
He presented that at Monerotopia at the time.
Oh yeah.
And we'll be putting up that video soon. That was one of the videos where, unfortunately, we lost electric in the dome for a significant amount of time. But luckily, somebody there recorded it locally with their phone, so we'll edit that together and get it out. But he goes into detail about Woodser goes into detail about the Havino project and the launch of the testnet. But yeah, go ahead, DGoon, take it away.
Yeah, so basically, this is meant to be a quick overview. If you see all these names thrown around, you see advertisements and talks, to give you a quick overview of what these things are. So like Doug said, I don't want to iterate him again. This is a Bisq fork run by, funded in part by Cakewallet. The code's been written by some of the Monero core devs. So really cool projects, testnet live right now. Basically, Bisq focused or Bisq Monero fork. So that's pretty much that is. Not live yet, still on testnet. And then another thing you might have heard about is Sarai. And Sarai is really cool. Doug has a couple interviews focused on Sarai and other projects. Sarai, well, a lot of these other platforms require you to run a node, right? In order to use Bisq, you have to run a Bitcoin node, I believe, and other different projects. If you want to be a maker, all these other requirements. But pretty much what some really smart Monero devs came up with is you can use multi-sig to actually not require any nodes in the process, right? Basically, you sign a transaction, well, I don't know exactly how it works, but you sign a transaction and you don't have to be online for it. You can post that transaction and post data back and forth, and it's decentralized also. But Sarai is meant to be a really not bare bones, but really simple and focused project. I think they plan to launch with Monero, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and DAI, I believe, as some options. DAI is a stable coin used, and it's really cool. They recently finished their audit by Cipher Stack, which is really popular in the Monero space. And they're also not live yet. They might, I'm not sure if they have a testnet option up yet, but it's a really cool project, and I'm really excited for it. Really smart devs behind it. So this one going to be just simpler.
Yeah, Luke Parker, right? So everybody, obviously, everybody knows Luke Parker at this point, and most famously recently for his work on full membership proofs. But this is, the thing that he's really been focusing on up until that has been Sarai. And I think the biggest thing to mention about Sarai too is it's kind of analogous to Thorchain, right? So it's based on liquidity pools. So it's not a DEX. It's not peer to peer, right? Where you're opening up a trade with one other individual, which kind of limits liquidity, right? So it's based on liquidity pools. So whenever you want to go trade your Monero, it's more fluid, right? You're not like looking for somebody to set up a trade with. You're going in and out of these liquidity pools and trading through them. So it's effectively like a Thorchain that's Monero based, I think is the easiest way to explain it.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's just, I feel like this space is very quickly evolving because I am not too familiar with Thorchain myself. And I'm like, there's so many options that people just don't like talk. Like if you want to be decentralized and use Monero, you can do, there's so many options like Doug said, like Thorchain, all these other projects too that I'm not too familiar with. But so that's pretty much the ride. The next one, also I believe not live yet, just got audited. I'm not sure if they probably have some type of testnet, but I'm not sure how open that testnet is right now. And then Haven, which is really cool. I had heard a lot about it, did some research last night, and Haven's is also a decentralized exchange platform. And their idea is that you can have private assets essentially. So you can like have synthetic coins that track the gold price, synthetic coins that track the oil price, and things like that. Of course, you have stable private coins. All these, that's their main goal from reading their white paper last night. And it's also not live yet. It went live on testnet, but then they had some issues. I think it went live, like you could use it. Then there were some issues during the bear market. I think they pulled it back. I think they've done some more testing around that. I believe Cakewallet supports, or at some point supported buying it and holding it, I believe.
I think it's built into Cakewallet. You could hold your Haven there, but obviously, they've run into issues with the algorithm, right? It's an algorithmic stable coin. And that hasn't really proven to work. It sounds great in theory, but they've had issues with actually making it work in reality.
Yeah, but it's really impressive. I mean, Ethereum has a hard time tracking synthetic assets. I can't imagine trying to do that on top of Monero also with all the privacy, all the other issues the chain's going to give you versus something like Ethereum, which is really cool project. Hopefully they like I said, they were live at one point. I'm not sure about the current status of it. Hopefully they get back going because it's really cool to be able to have private, gold coins that track gold price. It's really cool to have private coins that track the oil price or everything like that. And that's pretty much like a quick overview of the DEXs. So if you hear these things now, you'll know what they mean. And now we're going to get some really cool stuff about atomic swaps, which also, like, I don't know why they're not talking about more. They're really cool, and that some of them are actually live right now. I know. Well, Doug talks about it, like literally everything I look up. Doug has an interview with the person, so it's just like, But hopefully they get more use.
Yeah,
so
we
right
have.
now.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So just a quick overview of the atomic swap space. Unstoppable Swap is a service that allows you to swap. Currently, this is live, but you can only go from Bitcoin to XMR with an unstoppable swap. So you can currently do this. I'm not sure how deep the liquidity pool is right now. Wasn't able to pull up and get it tested, but this is currently something that you can literally run on your computer. It requires a full node on both ends, I believe. If I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that, but it does require some dev work. Like you have to go to GitHub, run the Docker, do all that kind of stuff. But like currently, you can swap from Bitcoin to XMR using Unstoppable Swap, atomic swaps. I'm going to step back a little bit and give an overview of what an atomic swap is. And atomic swap is a decentralized way that allows you to swap from one chain to another in an atomic manner. And that means that if something goes wrong, either the transaction goes through completely or it doesn't go through at all. There is no way for you to get stuck in the middle in this weird state. That's why it's called atomic. And it's meant to be decentralized peer-to-peer also, and sort of different than what Doug mentioned earlier with Sarai, which is more of a pool type thing. This is meant to be literally some dude in somewhere has a node, you have a node, and y'all can run this software and go back and forth and swap coins. So that's really cool. Like right now, it currently runs. You can go from Bitcoin to XMR. There's also another project, Farcaster, which allows you to go both ways, and they're actually been doing this right now. On the screen, I'm showing that they did like the average swap was $400. The highest amount was $2,700. So they're currently going back both ways. But once again, it's still really meant for devs to run right now. It's not really, you can't just pull it up, go to it. You have to like run like a node, all this stuff. So it's not really recommended for, I would say, people who are not technical. But it's really cool that you can currently do this as we speak right now. Also, there are ones I didn't mention, like Monerotopia. They talked, Elizabeth, I believe, did a presentation on Ethereum to Monero swaps.
Yep.
Which is really cool. I believe those can go both ways, and those are live currently also, right, Doug?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. And there's also, Doug, of course, has an interview with Basic Swap, which also currently the service that runs. You can go back and forth between different, I think they had like Firo supported, Monero supported, Bitcoin, Ethereum. I believe those are the ones, but they have more also. So this is like, I don't really know why these things haven't caught on, honestly, because they're currently
well,
working.
a lot of it has to do with usability, right? So atomic swaps, like you said, you basically have to be a dev, or not. You have to be technically inclined, right?
Yes.
And then beyond that, it still requires the marketplace of connecting buyers and sellers, right? So I mean, these things need to be built into an existing market, like something like a local Monero. Maybe it becomes an option there, right? So you could send cash and mail, you could use Venmo, or you could do an atomic swap with somebody. Like it has to be built into that, so you could connect the buyers and the sellers, right? So, and that's all that stuff needs to be built out. And then I think we'll start to see it being used more. But I think that that's really why it's not quote unquote popular yet, because it's just not very usable for people to just go run and do an atomic swap. But we did see recently, I don't know, what was the one that was recently posted where somebody was they kind of built
that website, right?
Yeah, Tux, maybe you know what I'm talking about. They built a user-friendly interface where you can basically trade and swap, and there's atomic swaps happening on the back end behind the scenes, supposedly, but I don't think it's
atomicmonero.com.
Atomicmonero.com, right?
It's like new, so don't know who the people are. Whatever code they're using for the site is not open source, but it looks very interesting because they've made a very nice interface that looks like it would be very friendly for people trying to get into something like atomic swaps and very easy to use.
Right. I don't really totally understand it, but then the idea is behind the scenes, the atomic swap is happening. And so you as a user, you're not really dealing with that. It's kind of like it's almost like you're using like an instant exchange, like a Trocador or something. But then the behind the scenes exchanging is taking place using atomic swap, supposedly, right? Because we don't really know.
Which is why it needs to be open source.
Right. So, which is, I don't know why, a little sus that they would.
Even if it was open source, you're still trusting like their site, that the site that they're running is actually what the source is. But it looks interesting. We'll have to see what happens with that.
But maybe it would be great. Maybe they just haven't released it as open source yet. Maybe it isn't too good to be true. Maybe it actually is what they say it is, and that there you go. That's a step in the direction of usability for atomic swaps. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I saw that too. All you said makes perfect sense. And that was just a quick overview of like the cool ways to swap Monero, buy Monero, sell Monero that aren't just like, you go to Kraken and you use and you just go there. Like there are some really cool things.
Yeah, beyond traditional centralized exchange, right?
Yeah.
There are all these options. People mention them here and there, but you've compiled them all today. Yeah, I think you covered it well, right? Basically, you have your traditional centralized exchange, then you have instant exchanges, then you have DEXs like Haven and Bisq, then you have atomic swaps, and then you have things like Sarai, like these liquidity pool chains, swapping chains.
Really cool stuff. And like I said, That was a quick. Hopefully, you guys are paying attention, because if you're paying attention, you got the answer to this question. Which product does Luke work on mostly? And by Luke, I mean Luke Parker. If you don't know who this man is, like, please, like, I don't know where you're at, like, come from beneath the rock, please. Luke Parker is doing great work with full membership proofs and other projects too. So I'm gonna give y'all time to think. The options are Unstoppable Swaps, Sarai Dex, and Havana. So hopefully you've been paying any attention to the interview, you'll know the answer to this question. And the answer is Sarai Dex. Luke spends most of his time, I believe, working on Sarai Dex. But who knows what Luke is doing? In his part time, he likes to just solve, calls himself an informal cryptographer, but puts out some amazing work. And of course, I said, if something exists in Monero space, Doug has an interview. So Doug has this really cool interview where Luke Parker is like 2 hours long, both parts, where they literally sit down and talk about Sarai Dex and all these things and the trade-offs and all this really cool stuff. It's a great interview. And Doug also has an interview with Basic Swap, I believe. And I believe an interview with Elizabeth talking about Ethereum Monero swaps also, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, check out the show. Really cool stuff. Like, literally, it's amazing stuff from Doug. I think that's it for me. But yeah, any questions?
No, good job, man. Good job. I mean, I think we should say, I always like to say, like, especially with local Monero and recently what we saw, I don't know, we certainly mentioned on this show, DGoon, I don't remember if you were on the show or whatever when it happened, but the person that got arrested recently for using local Monero, we've seen it happen in the past with local Bitcoins. Basically, the guy is accused of not having, the proper licenses, right? That he's being labeled as a money transmitter. And because of that, he needs the proper licenses. I think he's also being accused of money laundering. So the point is, the simple point I'm trying to make is these there's nothing. Well, I guess depends on what jurisdiction you're in. But speaking from where I am here in New York and basically in the United States, there's nothing illegal about trading Monero for cash peer to peer, right? Where you run into a problem is if you're actively doing it as a business and for profit. So you just got to be careful out there. These tools exist. Use them, but be smart about it. If you want to start, if you want to be in the business of being on local Monero and selling Monero for cash, you're taking a risk there. But if out of your own personal need from time to time, you have a need to exchange your Monero into cash, or you have a need to purchase Monero using cash, local Monero is a great way to do it. But just be cognizant of that before be aware. I think it's important to make note of that. I think even local Monero, they obviously would say the same thing, right? Like consult an attorney or something, right? But I mean, I don't know how you have average Joes out there. They just want to get some Monero. They don't want to go like hire an attorney and talk to them first. And I have to say too, right? This isn't legal advice, but this is personal advice. Just don't do it as a business, right? And you should be good. You're in the clear. And so it's unfortunate that they're trying to make examples of people and scare people away. So I'm not saying don't be scared away. We need to fight the fight. We need to normalize this, but we also don't want to be that person they make an example of. So just don't be so egregious in how you use this tool.
Yeah, and I think I would add a little more context. Like, this isn't legal advice. Just a person who I think recently was, I think, allegedly arrested, was in California, and they were the biggest one in America for local Monero, if I'm not mistaken. Like the most volume.
They were the biggest cash to Monero exchanger. Essentially.
So
I think he was out of New York, actually.
Oh, was that New York? Oh, okay.
Well, that makes it worse.
I'm sorry, New York's rough.
Yeah, I had posted. He was. Some people kind of like figured out who he was by looking at the court filings or whatever, court papers. He was interviewed on a YouTube show. He was an interesting guy. Like, really, like, you watch it, he's like, he's the type of person that is out there fighting the good fight, an agorist, and he's very idealistic and very supportive of his beliefs and the things he was saying. But he got caught up, and it's unfortunate. So just be careful in how you use these things.
Makes sense. I think that's it for me.
Don't do it as a business. Don't use local Monero, but don't be out there as for business purposes trying to buy and sell Monero for profit on there, because you may start exchanging with somebody who's not just some normal peer, but a federal agent that's just looking to screw you over.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry to end on a down note.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, Doug, you don't get bitten by any sharks or by a New York federal agent. We gotta.
They're both in the water.
They're both in the water. It's a very dangerous time to be in New York. It sounds like
There's a lot of sharks in New York. A lot of sharks. All right, DGoon. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah,
of
course.
All right.
All right, I'm waiting on the guest. He said he should be on in a second.
Okay. Want to run the news?
Yeah, we can go ahead and run the news. Let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah,
Let me
let's
get
do that.
that. All right, sweet. Running that news segment.
And now for our weekly news segment.
Hey guys, and welcome to the news section. I hope that you had a good week. This time we're going to get straight into the news section by discussing a bill approved by lawmakers in France that will allow the police to secretly access the cameras, microphones, and locations of suspects via their mobile phones. But it's not just limited to their phone, mobile phones. It covers laptops, cars, and other connected objects as well. So they can essentially remotely activate a camera, microphone, and GPS of their phones and other devices. Lawmakers agreed late on Wednesday, July 5th. And the MPs in President Emmanuel Macron's camp inserted an amendment limiting the use of remote spying to when justified by the nature and seriousness of the crime, and for a strictly proportional duration, also added by Dupont Moretti, that we're far away from the totalitarianism of 1984 and people's lives will be saved. Now, pay attention to the wordings. And people's lives will be saved. You need this thing. Essentially, everybody's going to be surveilled, and your phone and your devices will just have an on and off switch to which they can remove your privacy. It's like being in your house, but they have the key to your house and they can get inside whenever they want. Do you feel safe? You don't really feel safe with that, and it's not going to be used just for this purpose as well. It's so essentially it is 1984. It's like with CBDCs in the UK, US, and other countries. They discussed that, and in the EU as well, the digital euro. They were discussing that, you're gonna have privacy, but kind of not really, because if you do anything, then we'll be able to off switch your privacy, and then we'll be able to see what you do. So, this is not good, but it's been passed, and it's gonna be interesting. But so then that means that your devices are always, of course, possible to spy on you, but now they can just do it. But I mean, they probably were already spying on you before if they really wanted to, of course. Now it's just legal. But then let's talking about kill switches. The EU finalizes Data Act with a kill switch for smart contracts. So in this Data Act, they're talking about the kill switching for smart contracts. If they're not deemed to be safe, they can be terminated. And they also talk about, of course, the digital euro, aiming to make it a widely accepted and easily accessible form of payment. And it will allow individuals to obtain digital euros through their bank upon request, ensures easy accessibility, and prevents citizens from being left behind. Wow, such a nice thing. Free basic digital euro services, privacy protection. You're not going to get any privacy at all. And offline payments. Wow, this sounds really good. I think I'm not going to use it at all. But the EU did finalize this Data Act. And another act that is not really good for human population. So this is Christine Lagarde. She's a European Central Bank president. This is a video for the people watching on Twitter Spaces. Maybe you can hear, maybe not, but let's try and play the video. If not, I'll also go over what she said. Right. So, in case the audio didn't work again, she said that inflation has pretty much come out from nowhere, right? Like we didn't have inflation, and we woke up and like, okay, 10% inflation. Okay, well, wow, eggs are more expensive. Wow, the gas is more expensive. All of a sudden, right? It came from nowhere. Like they haven't done anything at all, of course. They just printed trillions of euros and had negative interest rates for years. But of course, like nothing caused inflation. It's like a diamond is worth so much because it's only so much of it in the world. But if diamonds were growing on everybody's lawns, then it wouldn't be worth as much. So obviously, the more you print in a currency, the more you're going to inflate the currency, and the less it's gonna be. But I guess that they didn't take basic economy. You don't even need to take economic classes. Like it's just basic common sense. But if I were to be on television and know what really caused inflation and play dumb, that it just pretty much came from nowhere, I would not feel. I couldn't even do it. Just these people don't have values as human beings. It's absolutely crazy, and they want you to not have values as well. That's what ultimately they want to have, because when you have values as a human being, you don't allow these things to happen. You rebel, and this is why we're here. Using Monero. Then, in case you're still not sure if CBDCs are coming, India negotiates cross-border CBDC payments with global central banks. What is interesting is that they are saying that cross-border payments will also become much quicker, more seamless, and very cost-effective. That is another area where a lot of attention needs to be given. We are constantly in dialogue with other central banks that have introduced or are introducing CBDCs. Essentially, we do need a global solution that is quick, seamless, very cost-effective, right? So I made a transaction to Romania yesterday, for example, from here, the US, and the fees were not nice. So it needs to be cost-effective, low fees, everything, fast. Like it takes a couple days to send something globally, and if you transact more money, then it's just a pain to do so. But something with Monero, it's just fast. It's instant. The fees are very, very low. The more it's used, the lower the fees. So we need a solution eventually. CBDC is not the solution, but when countries say that we may have CBDCs, maybe not, we're going to test it. No, we're going to have something in place eventually, and it is going to be CBDC. Those are just lies to show that, we're uncertain, but eventually we made it to CBDC. No, CBDC is the end goal, and everybody needs to understand this. The Chinese city of Jinan accepts CBDC payments for bus rides now. So China is using CBDC, Nigeria is using CBDC. They forced their citizens in Nigeria to use the CBDC. It had recovered over in a different episode in the past. The ENA era, which is their CBDC in Nigeria, had a 0.5% adoption. Like nobody was using it, and that was very high because they just taken away the cash from the circulation. Then something like Monero also helps. So it helps with privacy invasion, right? What we kind of discussed in the beginning of the new section. Then it's very easy to transact with people, which is very important. But also Monero is very stable as well, and it's very stable compared to other currencies because cryptocurrencies, because people actually use it. So it's used in circulation. It's not the pump and dump for people just buying speculation in the sell. So it's very stable. So this brings me to Argentina's inflation is helping altcoins in the crypto market. Argentina has a very high inflation. It's hyperinflating over 150%, which is a lot. Their money is worth nothing, right? Which does help the altcoin market because the Argentinian pesos are then transformed into different altcoins by the people. But if they learn about Monero, they can get their Argentinian pesos, which are not worth much, and go into something like Monero. Now, talking about Monero, I've seen this video, which is really cool, by Taksuro, which is a Cakewallet sneak peek. So if you're on Twitter, you can't see unless you go on YouTube. But essentially, it's different themes for Cakewallet because right now I think we have only 3, and the new ones look pretty cool. Dark mode with yellow and all kinds. So it's kind of like orange yellow, yeah. So I'm excited for the new Cakewallet update. Now, as you may know, there's a new Twitter competitor from Meta, which is Threads. And of course, there's an image saying that data link to you, and it's everything: financial info, contact info, user content, browsing history, usage data, diagnostic, health and fitness, purchase, location, contact, search history, identifiers like IDs, passports, whatever, sensitive information, other data. Literally everything that you have on your phone is going to be collected and linked to your identity by Meta. But if you use Instagram and other apps, they're already doing that. So I guess adding threads is not really going to do much more. Now, if you want to kind of relax, take a deep breath, then you should go on the Monero community on Twitter and talk to like-minded people as well, and share the things that annoy you in the world, or Monero memes or whatever you want to discuss Monero related. So go on Twitter and look up for the Monero community and join. We have 374 people so far. And also be kind and respectful. Keep tweets on topic and explore and share. Then JustWP is a privacy-focused WordPress host that now accepts Monero. So if you go to justwp.io, it's your anonymous WordPress host. Get your WordPress site online today, they say, with a free domain name, SSL, and unlimited email addresses. No personal information required, and set up in minutes for $59.99 per year. And you can pay in Monero. Check it out. I think we have two more things. Now, one last thing, actually. So the last thing that I want to bring up for this new section for this week is, so this person ordered the Mastering Monero book. You can get the PDF online. That's what I did. I read it online. You can get the book as well. So we have the first edition. I think there's a second edition as well of the Mastering Monero, which goes in detail of how Monero works. So I highly recommend it if you want to refresh your knowledge about Monero. But then we also have the Monero Standard, which you can pre-order now. It's going to come soon. It's written by my good friend, the Stoic Coiner. It's going to come soon. He's been working on it for a long, long time. Very, very hard. It's going to be a great book, so make sure that you pre-order it and read it when it does come out. You can follow on Twitter to find more information about that as well. Guys, this was this week's news section. As always, you can see my name over here. If you want to send me anything for the news section, if you want me to cover anything, I think I have the same for Telegram as well. If you want to send me news articles, the links are going to be in the description. Stay tuned for the rest of the show. We have the price report, which is awesome, dev section, the whole show. So the guest section as well. So yeah, stay tuned, and we'll see you next week, guys. Have a good week. Bye. Peace.
Awesome.
All right.
Yeah, links aren't in the description yet. I tried adding it after the stream started, and as soon as you start the stream, it doesn't let you change anything from this side, so that'll have to be added afterwards.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the French news. That's crazy.
That is crazy. I mean, yeah, like you were saying, they're already definitely doing that in a lot of these,
sure
countries. But now it's like it's totally okay. It's like it's all cool, for
right.
them.
It's one thing
legally.
the NSA is doing it behind the scenes, or what the NSA of whatever country you're in. But now to give the police the authority to easily do this. I don't know what the process is, if they need some kind of warrant. I assume they need a warrant to do it, but still, like, that's pretty wild. That's pretty wild. And then obviously, 99% of society just goes along with it, right? Because they're like,
yep,
crime is bad, not realizing the implications of what it means, right? So when they start going after people that may not be doing quote unquote horrendous crimes, maybe they're just people that disagree with the current direction the government's going in, right? And next thing you know, they're being spied on. Maybe they're Monero users, right? Maybe they're in France.
Yeah, that is crazy that the police can do it though, because usually it's only the 3-letter agencies, like you said, like the NSA. Ditch your iPhone, ditch your regular Android, use Graphene OS. That might not completely solve it, but I'm sure it would make it harder for them to spy on you, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like we were saying before, look at this guy that came after that was on local Monero. Perfect example, right? So maybe if your country is for whatever associating Monero usage with being I don't even want to say the words, right? Like, so whatever it is, you may be on some list, and next thing you know, they're using your phone to spy on you, right? Because they've justified it. Wild stuff. Scary. All right, man. Is our guy ready to go?
Looks like it. Yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the guest segment.
The Monerotopia guest segment is sponsored by Cakewallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cakewallet is open source, and you always control your own keys.
Yo.
Hello.
Crypto, you there?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sounds slightly weird.
Okay.
Not the best.
Yeah, it started acting up. Let me just rejoin real quick.
Yep, no problem.
Okay. What happened? He's
I think he's doing it on his phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's always a pain.
Okay. Let's see if it gets back on. So yeah, DGoon let the cat out of the bag, huh? With the which is fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
We're very excited about this project. We just don't want to talk too much about it.
Until it's more ready.
Before it's more ready, yeah. About Monero Nodo, should mention that, guys. Things are on track. I think we've had 19 people place an order so far. So please, if you're also interested, please don't hesitate. Place an order. We're trying to. We have 50 early edition Monero Nodos that will be launching out there.
That's the orange version.
The orange version.
Nice.
I think we'll put a unique, a serial number on there, right, or to designate what number of Nodo you got. I think I'm number 2. I gave Abdullah number 1 because he's worked so hard on this project. So that's cool.
Is it currently being manufactured?
Yes, we're gonna have Abdullah on hopefully maybe next week or the week after with an update. But yeah, don't want to say too much yet. But he'll come on. He'll answer questions. We did a whole Monero talk interview on it with Abdullah and Brindle and Arctic Mine, who also participated in the project. So check that out if you're interested. And there's tons of details there. But yeah, we'll have Abdullah on, and he can give the real nitty gritty. What's going on?
Okay.
Answer any questions people have. What's going on? Except Crypto, you're back.
Sup? I'm back. I don't know why it's acting up. Does it sound better now?
Yeah, it's good enough. It's good enough. We'll take it.
Okay.
So what's going on, man? What are you working on?
So I just started this website maybe a week or 2 ago. The reason why I started it is there was a burrito place, a restaurant near my home, near my general area in California, and so they had a one the Bitcoin Cash apps, and it was the main wallet. It was the whole wallet, and so I realized it's okay, your company, your business, you're starting off trying to accept crypto, and a lot of people don't know the information, the best point of sale systems, the best wallets that will keep your funds safe and all that. So I was well, there's all this information out there, right? You have Crypto Grampy's Hot Shop for Monero. You have the point of sale app for Bitcoin Cash. I just learned this stuff literally this week because I was well, there's got to be apps for this already. There's got to be websites that already do this stuff, but I didn't see any of those. So I was well, I'm pretty good at researching things. I spend time on the internet a lot. So I have all these resources. I bookmark stuff all the time. So I was okay, you know what? Let me start a website. Let me collect this information. Let me put it out there so people know, hey, if I gotta figure something out, all these different resources. So that's the main reason I started it, is so that people have access to that information that's already out there. But the problem is just no one knows how to find it. Even me, I had to find it this week, and I scrolled through Twitter for maybe an hour just to find different apps that already existed out there.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I agree. I think there's definitely a lot of work to be done in this area of teaching people how to actually use crypto, like especially like merchants, right? So, what do you see as the best tools for merchants that want to start accepting
So the top 5, I would say probably offhand, I would say Bit Request, BTC Pay Server, OpenNode, BitPay, and oh gosh, there's one more that I'm drawing a blank on. But yeah, top 4. Those are the top 4 that I can think of off the top of my head. I have more listed on my website.
What is the website?
It's acceptcrypto.org.
Okay. Yeah, BTC Pay Server is really, really slick. We use, just for our businesses, Gratuitous and Monero Noto and Monerotopia, where we accept payments. We use the Monero Gateway to accept Monero directly, and it does glitch a little bit sometimes, but I like it because it's kind of a pure Monero option. It's actually very easy to set up for anybody that has a WordPress website. It's created easily with e-commerce. You're making a lot of noise over there, except crypto.
Sorry.
So yeah, we use the Monero Gateway for accepting Monero directly, and then now payments for making it easier for people that want to pay in other cryptos other than Monero, and then it's swapped into Monero. But we're looking to maybe move over to BTC Pay Server. It's very, very slick and easy. At MoneroCon, they were using the merchants there, or like the little cafe there, had BTC Pay Server hooked up, and the little bar where they were serving beer. It was very slick, and you were able to pay with Monero via BTC Pay Server. Oh no, we lost him. Shep.
Sketchy connection, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll message him. Yeah, I like BTC Pay Server. I haven't done it yet. I haven't had time. But I actually want to set it up myself. I don't really have a need for it, but I want to set it up just to try it out because it's cool that you can have your own payment server like this that you can host yourself and have complete custody over.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Now Payments is a bit more custodial, isn't it?
Yeah, Now Payments is a custodial solution, but it's nice for accepting multiple different cryptos, and they just do the swap for you, and they send you the Monero. Obviously, Monero Gateway isn't custodial at all. It just sends directly to your wallet, and there's no middleman there. But that's just Monero payments only. But yeah, the Monero feature on BTC Pay Server seems to work really well. It's really nice. All right. Well, I don't know. We lost him, and
yep, I'm messaging him.
Thinking maybe we close it out here. Actually, we're at an hour and a half.
Is it already? Yeah, we are.
Right.
Yeah, I like. Yeah, the only downside to BTC Pay Server is the fact that you have to, if you're hosting it yourself, you have to run a full node for every single coin you want to be able to accept. So if you want to use it without having to run it yourself, other people provide that as a service. You can pay this other person, or they might let you use it for free, depending. They have there's a list that you could find for that. But I think BTC Pay Server is the best option for privacy and in terms of having something that's open source, or if you want to use it non-custodially, you can.
Yeah, unfortunately I think we lost him. I mean, we could have him on again in the future, maybe when he wants. Oh, is he back?
It looks like he joined. All right.
All right, there. Accept Crypto, you back?
Looks like you're muted.
Yo. I don't know. Maybe he's
okay. Sorry, I'm running it off an iPhone, old iPhone, one of the iPhone SE, the 2020 model. So, whatever reason, it keeps glitching a little bit, but I think we're back.
Okay. Anything else you wanna leave with us with regards to Accept Crypto and information you want to put out there?
Yeah. So, my goal is adoption in general. I know, like some people, like you guys were talking about, you guys are Monero purists. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say purist or maxi, but you guys are more heavy Monero, and I understand that. I completely understand that. I agree with it. I'm a Monero person myself. I've been involved in the community. I know the people around the Monero community. But my goal is is to think the bigger tent, right? Because a lot of people say, oh, it's Bitcoin only or Bitcoin Cash only or Zcash only. And I feel like that's the wrong approach because it divides the collective community of cryptocurrency. And when we're divisive, when we separate ourselves and say, hey, your shitcoin sucks, or sorry if I can say that word or not, but you know that word, my coin's better than your coin and all that, that allows the governments, that allows, you know, the banks, that allows the big institutions to take over and divide us and target us one by one and take us down that way. So I feel like, right, as a movement, as an uh, ideology, I guess, is we have to stick together as best as we can. Like, yeah, we can point out the flaws and differences in each cryptocurrency, but in order for us to move ahead, we have to realize, hey, it doesn't matter if we're Zcashers or Bitcoin cashers or Decred or Oxen or Firo, whatever. They're going to come for all of us. And right now, as much as people might hate to hear it, Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Monero, and Zcash are the top 4 players, probably. They're like the top 4 players right now. And we have to stick behind those and we have to help out the little guys as well. And we have to make sure that the legislation that does get passed is favorable for us. And I get it's supposed to be cypherpunk. I get we're supposed to be bottom up instead of top down. But for the vast majority of people, they're not bottom up kind of people. Most people are top down. So for us to succeed, we have to fight that top down, you know, system. We have to say, hey, it's a digital technology. It's innovating the world. It's helping people in third world countries escape excruciating poverty. It's helping Ukrainians and, you know, LGBTQ people escape, you know, oppression. It's helping truckers, you know, the Canadian truckers escape oppression. So it's like it's a bipartisan thing. It's, you know, it's a technology that benefits humanity. And well, and it is a currency, obviously. And, you know, the institutions are in charge are threatened by that. But we have to point out that, hey, just because it is an alternative currency system, there are also technologies. So we have to encourage reasonable legislation. And I know with Washington, D.C., there's no such thing as reasonable legislation, unfortunately. But the more favorable terms, the better. But I get at the end of the day, you know, we all have to go cypherpunk. We all have to start minding our own stuff. That's the future. That's the way it's probably going to end up. But in the meantime, we have to put that hill. We're on the hill and we have to put that fight to them and say, hey, you can't just blindly ban all these things just because you don't like it, right? Because there's like the Filecoin, Bitcoin, bit torrent transfer. You know, cryptocurrencies are used for storing and transferring large amounts of data. Those have like legitimate technological purposes, and just for them to blindly ban everything is stupid. So yeah, I get for Monero, for us, we'll probably be the ones that are banned at the end of the day. But the best way to get people into it is, hey, Bitcoin, because that's what they know. That's the mascot. People don't know what cryptocurrency is. And it's unfortunate. I hate saying it, but it's the reality. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to do with this website is help people understand, hey, Bitcoin was the first, it's the mascot, but there's so much more to it. There's tools, there's knowledge out there to help improve humanity.
Good stuff, Matt. Good stuff. Are you in your day to day? I think you said, what was it, a taco place? What was the place that you frequented that is trying to accept crypto?
So it's a like a taqueria. It's like a restaurant.
Cool. Are you coming across other places that you live in that are also trying to accept crypto or accepting it?
Not yet. I'm trying to see like the process. Like I'm saying, hey, you guys accept Bitcoin? Because that's like I said, that's like the easiest way to go upon it. And because I feel like Monero has been kind of hidden, and I get the delistings and all that don't help. But I feel like the best way is to start off with tools that are Bitcoin and Monero. And I feel like by having those tools that allow for multiple payments helps us in the long term. So, and it also helps, businesses, because they say, hey, you got that guy that's a Bitcoin Cash maxi, and, he only wants Bitcoin Cash. And it's like, okay, we got the Bitcoin Cash, we have the Monero, we have the Zcashers, right? Allows businesses to have those tools, right? Because no business, like me personally, I feel like it would be pretty ridiculous to have to swap through 50 different apps just because one guy's a maxi, and it's like, hey, I don't like those other coins. Give me my maxi coin, and like, right, as a business, you just want a one tap solution. Like, hey, okay, this guy's a maxi. We'll scroll through the list and pop up the QR code for him, and then the other guy's like, okay, he wants to pay 50 Bitcoin Cash and 25 Bitcoin, 25 Monero. Okay, bam, bam, bam. Like, they want it easy, they want it all in one. And I mean, I'd hate to say it, like, I love Monero, but you have to be realistic, right? There's hundreds of different currencies in the world, just even fiat, right? So to say, hey, it's like if an American, I mean, I'm in California, so I'm an American, but right, if an American went to like Europe and they're like, hey, take my American money, the Europeans would be like, oh, you're being weird right now. Like, yeah, we recognize the dollar, but we don't like it because we prefer European money more. And right, that's like, I don't know. I totally lost track of where I was going with that, but
yeah, I think what you're saying is people have to realize these things are just tools, and from the merchant perspective, they don't really care so much about your ideology and which crypto you like. They just want to be able to seamlessly get payment from their customer, right?
Yeah.
And
yes.
If their customer says, well, I want to pay in, Shiba Inu shitcoin or whatever, ideally they want to be able to be like, yeah, sure, just pay right here. And then have that, maybe swapped into whatever fiat or the crypto that they prefer, like a Monero or Bitcoin. But from their perspective, all they care is make it seamless for the customer. I want to receive payment for the items I'm selling. And I don't necessarily care about the ideology of this crypto versus that one. I just want to get paid, right?
Yeah.
And,
it'd be nice if they all cared about the benefits of using
of
private currency, but reality most of them don't care.
But I do think that's where Monero really comes into play, because there is a real reason for people to accept it, right?
Yeah.
For people to be like, oh, for a merchant to be like, to go out of their way and just accept, I don't know, some shitty crypto, it doesn't really make sense, right? Like they could just accept credit cards, they could accept Venmo, which is super simple. Like, why are they now going to do this crypto thing? But with Monero, it makes sense is because they're getting an added benefit, right? Which is, one, no fees essentially compared to credit cards, and two, it's like cash. It's untraceable. It's anonymous, and there's value there, right? And business may be, early adopters who understand the value there will go out of their way to accept something like a Monero because it actually makes sense and they'll get value from it. And their customer gets value too, right? Because their customer isn't paying any fees, and their customer is also getting the added benefit of being able to use cash to make a payment as opposed to some traceable thing like a credit card or a Venmo. But so, I mean, I agree with your sentiment overall. I think that's something to consider too, right? And I think Tux was hinting at it. Is maybe getting merchants excited about the value proposition of crypto, right? The why. Why would they even go out of their way to accept it? Making it super seamless is important, but they also need to understand the why of why am I even doing this versus credit cards or Venmo or that, right?
Yeah. So that's the focus of the website is, right? Instead of making an argument for particular coins, I will admit, I would probably describe myself as a Monero maxi. I do like Monero. It's my coin, coin of choice. It's the one that I would say is my daily driver. Now, unfortunately, like the real world, I've used Bitcoin as well. It's, it's come down to, hey, this merchant's not going to accept, Monero yet because they might not know about it or they might not have the tool for it yet. But I've used Bitcoin, I've used Monero. And so it's like, you have different merchants out there, and maybe one uses Grin, maybe one uses Oxen, like I do want to learn about those. I want to learn about the vast ecosystem of cryptocurrencies, and I want to make sure that merchants, make sure people that are paying to have that knowledge and say, hey, we view this coin as the better coin, right? Because right now Monero is the best coin. I would say that's what I will say, but it's like 5, 10, 20 years, some other guy, they make a better version. Who knows? It happens, and the best way is to future-proof businesses to allow for that flexibility, for the ever-changing world of technology. Because, 20 years ago, the best computer was the Macintosh, the Apple. I mean, maybe it wasn't. I'm just drawing off my mind of like, hey, you think good computer 20 years ago, you think Apple, right? Nowadays, it's probably still Apple, but, people say, hey, just get an old Lenovo laptop and boot Linux on it. But most people don't know how to, boot OSs and Flash and all that. But back to topic at hand. I don't know. You guys say something. I'm drawing a blank right now.
I'm sure you've if you've gone around like trying to get people to accept crypto, I'm sure you found it's depending on like who the people are that own the shop and like where it's at, it's probably harder because most people in America, like I've found that they don't care about it as much, and not that people are trusting of the state necessarily, but like they don't see the US dollar as being this extremely like detrimental thing. Like, I mean, it is, and a part of the reason for that is it's not as bad as like other countries, like Argentina, like talking to someone like Andreas, they use everyone there is completely on board with stuff like crypto. So if I were to tell someone about Monero over there, they'd be like, oh yeah, they'd be so on board already. But here it's a little different. So I think the direction of just trying to make it like easy for them to like, hey, you want to be able to accept all of this crypto, like here's this one tool that'll just do it all. I think that's like might be the right direction. And then you can try to steer them into like, oh hey, but here's why it's good. But I think initially it makes sense to like be like, oh, here's this payment processing that makes it easy to accept all this cryptocurrency as like business for you.
Yeah,
and it has to be done in a way, what they really care about at the end of the day, it's the liquidity, right, and it's the stability.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be able to receive something that has the same value tomorrow. right? Yes, granted, fiat has crazy inflation, but it doesn't whipsaw from in value overnight as opposed to cryptocurrency. And so it's for those reasons it's not currently the best medium of exchange. But like I said, I think with Monero you can make arguments for why you could even possibly overlook those things, but
Yeah.
you're getting different value out of it. There's different reasons why you're agreeing to use crypto, but you really have to be an early adopter at that point. And like Tux is saying, a lot of people just don't care. They don't care about those things. But I think what most people would care about, even your average American merchant, they understand cash, right? A lot of them
Yep.
have moved to credit card only because of the forces that be, right? And it's basically they've been forced out of cash. But they would prefer to live in a world where they can accept cash and where their customers were paying in cash. And I think that's something that most merchants can relate to.
Yeah.
And
So that.
and you
Sorry.
can say in this day and age where cash is being eliminated, if you want some cash alternative, here it is, crypto.
Yeah. So I would say that from what I've heard from people who have successfully converted businesses over to accepting a cryptocurrency, they usually use the cash selling point. I don't know exactly who said it or where I heard it or where I read it, but if we can translate to people's minds that cryptocurrency is similar to cash, then they would be more willing to accept it. And
yes,
I haven't personally experienced that issue yet. The issue that I've come across is the accounting/tax departments, because I go to these business owners. I've gone to maybe 2 or 3 business owners already, and I've asked them, hey, are you guys willing to accept Bitcoin? And they're like, oh, well, we have to talk with our accounting department, or tax department, like whatever relevant department, to see, hey, if we can accept it. Because it is, I will admit, as someone who's practiced or studied tax law a little bit. I was licensed for a year. Unfortunately, I couldn't maintain it as like a career because it was a seasonal thing. So I couldn't really, do the job for a year because it's only seasonal. I needed something year round. But yeah, tax laws regarding crypto are very, cumbersome. They're very annoying and difficult, and not too many people, you're a business owner, you're established, you have years of your business, you've put all that blood, sweat, and tears into it, and you don't really want to lose it all. You don't want to say, you don't want the government coming on your door saying, hey, why are you accepting this digital payment system without our authorization. They don't That's the one thing that people are afraid of, is taking that risk, is saying, hey, if I accept this and don't comply with their rules, are they going to shut me down after I put all this hard work into it? And so, California, I would say we're on the uphill battle, because the legislation hasn't been friendly. I'm not saying it's, authoritarian yet. Yeah, I mean, I would say a state like New York is definitely way more authoritarian than California is. Because if I recall, New York has just straight up banned crypto mining already. I might be wrong. It might just be it might be a bill in their house or something, one of the lower, chambers of the New York legislation, but California isn't quite there yet. So like
Yeah, I
states
don't
like
know.
California.
I wouldn't be California. Pick your flavor. One is just as worse as the other, man. I mean,
Yeah.
California's trying to
California, New York.
ban combustion car engines right now, right? I mean, it's like they're, it's just as bad for crypto in Cali than in New York, I would think. I don't see that going in any other. They're trending in the same direction.
Yeah, it's pretty hard, I would say, but basically, right? If we're doing the uphill battle here in California, we're taking the fight to them, taking the fight to the worst state, whereas like a state like Wyoming or Texas or Tennessee or New Hampshire, right? The legislation there is pretty friendly. And, even with Wyoming, especially Wyoming, they're like, hey, we want crypto. Like they're like proactively, they're not like, like Texas, I would say, is kind of middle of the road. Like, hey, it's legal. It's cool. We're cool with it. Whereas Wyoming's like, hey, give it to us. Please, we want it. And New Hampshire, I have a friend that's up there in New Hampshire. It's a pretty robust economy up there with cryptocurrency too. But the good thing for me, California, it gives, if we can bring the fight to the hardest state, then any other state would be a cakewalk.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And and to your point though, like Monero, right? So Monero, very difficult to get in New York. Kraken is not available in New York. You can't get Monero.
Oh, so you can't make a Kraken account at all?
No.
Oh, wow.
There's no way to obtain Monero on a centralized exchange, KYC exchange in New York. It's been like that forever. Monero's never been listed in New York on a centralized exchange. You could use instant exchanges and all this stuff, but yeah, I mean that's huge. That's a tremendous damper on the liquidity of Monero, the ability of people to get into Monero. New York, well, at one point was considered the financial capital of the world, and to some degree it still is. So cutting off all those, a lot of the crypto early bull markets and all was driven, I would say, by the U.S. and by New York in particular. And Monero was left out of that because it wasn't listed on exchanges. Things would have been different if Monero was on Coinbase. Now we deal with it in Monero land by saying, well, that's good, right? Because the way that people are obtaining Monero is without KYC and all this stuff, and it's more pure, and it's keeping the Monero price perhaps actually better reflects its true value because there's a lot less speculation. But to accept crypto's point, New York is worse than probably any other state in that respect. Why don't we go ahead and do we want to do viewers on stage? Because I do see is there anybody up here? We have Alaska Anon.
Yeah, it's up to you.
We'll let him come on real quick, and then we'll wrap it up. Except crypto, if you want to stay up, and then we'll just let Alaska Anon jump up if he wants to.
Okay.
And then we can wrap it up for the day. I want to get outside. I'm dying to get outside here.
All right, I'll run that segment.
It's the Viewers on Stage segment. It's that time where we invite you, the viewers, up on stage to comment on anything you've heard so far today, ask the guest a question, or maybe talk about one of the news topics. Come on down.
There he is.
Mr. Alaska himself.
How's the audio?
That sounds fine.
Good.
Yeah,
well, good morning to you guys in the tyrannical world of the lower 48. Kind of funny to listen to everybody arguing about all of the Orwellian nightmares going on down there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's sad.
Well, one of the things that I was kind of BSing about in the private chat was it's such an opposite problem for people in places like Argentina or Alaska, where our problem is there's such a liquidity crunch that it's like the Gresham's law on steroids, where like as soon as anybody gets their hands on Monero up here, they just won't trade it unless you offer them like a 50% discount or whatever, like, because to them, Monero is worth like $500, $600. They're just,
that's cool. So the effective price of Monero in Alaska is higher than like what the exchanges put it at.
Yeah, I mean, and then think about it in terms of like, fiat employment. Almost everybody up here, if they have a job, like they get paid in lots of fiat, but they get their food and they get their, they get all of that with fiat because it's like so disposable. And as soon as anybody starts offering, I'll pay in Monero, it's like, how much you got? You want a car? You want to like they'll try to sell you like everything on their property just to try to get that Monero off of you. It's kind of
is it listed as higher on local Monero on
no, I think I'm like the only person who's ever even offered any on local Monero. Nobody will sell it. And that's kind of what I was getting at with and look at the situation in Argentina too. Like the minute that they had their hands on some, they were able to just buy like everything, and I think that's going to become more and more of a situation as I'm not really sure why it creeps so slowly in the lower 48 because isn't it already kind of obvious? I mean, we just saw you guys upload the Luke Smith interview where even if you're just trying to buy a car or you're trying to buy, anything, if you wanted to take, fiat out of a bank to buy a car off of like Craigslist, it's like the friction is already so much worse in the fiat system that I'm not really sure exactly why people even keep trying. It's the sales pitch is already there. It's really more or less an issue of pointing out to these people that they already live in such a high friction environment. That's also why I think Southern California is doing such a good job onboarding people with Monero, because a lot of people are already doing cross-border payments. And without getting into too much, because I don't want to get anybody like in trouble, but it's already a situation for like importing food from one state to another, where most people are just like, it's not even worth it to even have fiat in the mix, right? Because if you try to buy food in one place and then move it to another place, that food's coming from like 4 different countries. That food is coming through like 5 different distributors, and all of these people have to like swap currencies, have 5 different bank accounts, wait on payments to clear. Well, food has a shelf life, and that one, I don't know if you guys remember, but the long-windedness of the argument for like almost a year about, oh, my Monero payment took 2 minutes to clear one time. And it's like, are you people absolutely insane? Like, I've seen trucks of food go bad waiting for payments to clear from, like Brazil to America, and then waiting for like a Canadian bond to clear and all that. Like the thing is like that frictionless at a higher level of business. The frictionless nature of Monero is just the ultimate sales pitch. And you remember the Luke Smith. If anybody hasn't watched the Luke Smith interview or talk that was just posted, you really need to watch it, because he's been pointing out, and I've been saying a lot of the same stuff just because of the nature of the work that I do. Everybody trying to use Monero on the ground has it so backwards. It's hilarious because the onboarding the vendors and then onboarding their suppliers is not only going to be an easier sale. These are people who are businessmen who deal with the nightmares that, the libertarian undercurrent of Monero is already talking about. They're desperate to leave the fiat system. They've got piles and piles of stuff that they want to sell. I mean, if you look at the actual supply chain disruptions, everybody is so sick of the currency wars and the government, everything. And, they'll be sitting on a pile of cash trying to buy, I don't know, some like circuit boards from China or Japan, or, like it's somebody in Thailand is a vendor for stuff that was made in Vietnam. And then one of the governments, they just happen to be sitting on that government's money, and they announce some like, $20 billion humanitarian package that's just going to print a bunch of bonds. They just lost like, $5 million. It's the sales pitch is so already there for the, and like Accept Crypto was just saying, about like his experience with adoption, right? That the top down worldview, like most people are top down people. Well, the real top down is these massive supply chains are already down to leave the system. They're more all about it than everybody. And they're already used to such a massive like government arbitrage of you are penalized for saving in all of these currencies. It doesn't matter, like here in America, you always hear the dollar is doomed, the dollar is, but in the world of business, it's like, I need more dollars because they debase it slightly slower, right? So if you're a saver, the penalty is least if you're in dollars or if you're in US Treasury bonds or whatever. But there's a whole school of thought if you get into like the really the Austrian academic world about there is no alternative to the dollar, right? The pool of capital that backs up all of the other currencies, even rubles, it is dollars, it is US Treasury. So you just go from the dollar holder to the dollar counterparty risk if you're using a different currency. And most of those Austrians, they then point to gold, but that's nonsense, right? Because there's also Monero, and anybody who's seen me before knows that I'm a strong advocate for gold. But the thing is there is another option for no counterparty risk, and it's actually Monero. And if you point that out to a large business, you're going to see another guy on coin cards, yesterday. The minute that they understand, I can take Monero, I can hold Monero, I can still buy something from another country, even if there's a currency war, even if there's an arbitrage, even if there's an import-export tax, Monero can build that into the price faster than their bank account can. Nobody trusts the banks anymore. They're shackled to the banks, right? So the real sales pitch for the really large top-down stuff is to point out this incredible economic potential of Monero to get out of the supply chain disruptions. And this is something that I deal with every day, right? It's like part of my job is actually I deal with exactly what I'm discussing every day, where if there was only a way for them to liquidate like whatever dollars they're sitting on from Monero, they would do it now. And just one easy example, you would not believe how hard it is to get seeds from so for example, the seed price might be really low in Canada. And let's say you want to plant a bunch of hay, like you're trying to plant alfalfa in Montana, right? You might wait for a year and a half to get permission to buy the seeds. And then by then, the price between the two has changed so much that like if you were saving in that time, you might have taken a 20% loss on your money between the two currencies. On top of you didn't get to invest that money, you didn't get, and the price of food could be immediately stabilized worldwide if people started using Monero at the supply chain level. So I just found it really interesting what Accept Crypto was saying about, onboarding vendors. And it's not even that they don't care about what crypto it is or whatever. They're just trying to figure out how they can, as one commenter said, pay their suppliers. Meanwhile, their suppliers are trying to figure out how they can get all of the benefits of Monero. They've just never heard of it, right? They would eat up everything that the Monero community is offering right now if they had the option to do so.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff as always. what can be done in Alaska, man, to help?
I am
If
super curious what will happen when, like, for instance, the final U.S. Centralized exchange that accepts Monero, which is Kraken, like, doesn't anymore. Like, because right now the price is largely um, not necessarily determined, but it's tracked by these centralized exchanges. And so, like, Binance doesn't have Monero, and they've recently started removing it in Europe. And of course, there's no other centralized exchange in the US besides Kraken that accepts it. So I wonder if we're going to start to see something happen like what's going on over there, where people are going to be less willing to give up their Monero at that price. And it's just going to, like, kind of, it's going to make it exponentially more valuable than US dollar than it is right now. Of course, there's still a lot of other ways you can obtain it using other methods, but, like, if the government, like, starts to, like, make examples of people like, oh, you've been converting a lot of Bitcoin to Monero, or we suspect you have been doing that, that might get demonized. And the only thing that's going to do is it's going to make it more valuable, I think.
Honestly, Arctic Mine is the best person, as well as those lawyers that are working on the Tornado Cash case, to comment on the fact that, and I've mentioned it before on one of these talks, but the whole house of cards on, like, what they claim they can track is already collapsing. And one of the reasons why people say, oh, they're going to shut it down when it comes to, like, these crypto exchanges and stuff. It's like the last vestige of hope that the powers that be have for manipulating Monero in any way, or, like, convincing people, well, if you can't get fiat for it, it's like, no, that's nonsense. It's because I'm already, and not just me, but there's a lot of people, I'd mentioned in the private chat a little bit, like, many different countries where Monero is what they want. Monero is what they're interested in. But, as an example, I think the last survey, it was like 55 to 60% of Americans pay no taxes except for consumption taxes, right? Like a gas tax or whatever.
No income tax.
Yeah, and the thing is most people who are just, the 9-to-5 worker crowd or whatever, they have no idea how much resistance to the government actually exists, even though they might be one of those people. They might be, or, people trying to get around. So what does the government actually do to control people? They use the carrot more than they use the stick. Oh, well, if you have tax returns, we'll give you Woo-Flu bucks. Or, if you're low income, we'll give you, free gas for your house heating or whatever. The real control is, they say, oh, well, if you let us establish the price, you can turn your fiat into Monero and back or whatever. They're more afraid of the crypto exchanges leaving than we are. And the true casualties, as I was telling Doug with the interview before, was the true casualties are going to be the people who are late to the party, and there's no on-ramp anymore for they're the ones that are going to hurt, because there's never going to be a situation in which productive people aren't going to be able to pay their bills, even if they accept Monero. The on and off ramps for Monero, even if they get more and more obscure when the use case becomes more and more obvious, right? So I'll give you a perfect hypothetical, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, about, like, if a Chinese person wants to get their money out of the country, what's the obvious choice? Right? It's the only one they're using anymore. They're using, like, a small handful of cryptos to get their money out of the country. Well, those Chinese people could pay somebody's bills in another country and accept Monero as payment. And now they have assets that they can take anywhere over the, or another good example is how many services are being hosted or offered out of Russia. I mean, most of the Tor nodes, okay, well, how are those Russians going to get paid over borders? And then how are they going to buy things across borders? We all know what they're already using, right? The use case for Monero is already there. And when that gets out, it's game over. Everybody, you're going to see, I mean, just think of the value of a Monero Nodo when the day when all of a sudden everybody realizes that they don't have to pull $5,000 out of a bank and wait 2 days and sign a bunch of papers and bring in a title to prove they actually bought what they said they were going to buy and all that. Like when this gets out, and I don't know if Doug remembers like me talking about the terrifying power of media. The power of media is not getting the word out, it's keeping the word from getting out. Right? It's the gatekeeper aspect, and God bless them, Uber Blue, like doing the news segment and kind of weeding through all of the nonsense that they want to put in front of your face or whatever. But people already don't trust the mainstream media, and now these alt medias are already pretty much the main media. But our ability to communicate what's actually going on amongst one another it's fast becoming a situation where every single person that says, yeah, I accept Monero at my business now, every single one of those is like a small earthquake in the world of fiat, because everybody hates the CBDC. Even if you've never heard of Monero in your entire life, like everybody hates the CBDC. Everybody hates the government regulations, right? And there's no way to both have your tyranny and make it liked at the same time. And one of the things that I was saying about the Achilles heel of all fiats is that none of them are borderless, and tyrants hate to let go of power, right? So every country that tries to regulate their fiat in their borders is playing a losing game, because the productive people that want to just, go travel to Cancun or whatever, like every single one of them becomes a living advocate for Monero, even if they've never heard of it before. Like it's, and it's not just me being a hopeless optimist, like the evidence is all around you, but the price control element of these on and off ramps are far too valuable, for the powers that be. And it's just better to like do it in small areas and try to like scare people out of it. I mean, are there really people in New York that can't find a way to get a Kraken account? It's like, of course you can find a way to buy Monero off of Kraken, even if you live in New York, right? But it's, they're just adding that one little scare tactic or whatever. But when people find out like the liquidity crunch of Argentina, Cuba, Alaska, then there's going to be price arbitrage. And then all of a sudden they're going to be getting $300 for each XMR versus, the people who are buying it off of Kraken for, whatever. And then all of a sudden there's going to be a liquidity crunch for Monero on Kraken at that fake price, because people are doubling their fiat by just sending it to Alaska and then getting, cash from Alaska and then going back to Kraken and buying more. Like arbitrage always wins. It's won in every single case that it's ever been in, and it's going to happen now. So
good stuff, man. Always love the rants.
The Alaska rants are the best.
Except crypto. Anything you want to throw out there before we wrap it up?
Yes. So I was just going to say, as far as like getting Monero, like people might think, oh, it's impossible, it's hard. I would say like even California, we already mentioned, but California, we have Bitcoin ATMs all over the place, and I haven't checked them out, but supposedly there's ATMs in this region where I'm at that one of them does Monero, supposedly. But even if we ignore Monero, right, they have Bitcoin, they have Bitcoin Cash. So as long as you can do it, right, their only KYC requirement is a phone number. And everyone who's been alive ever knows that you can easily get a burner phone. Like that, I would say that that's probably more of a, harder access is burner phones. I feel like that would probably kill Monero more
This is a
faster
good
than
plug for
a
Phantom Phone, by the way. If nobody's ever heard of the Phantom Phone project, I think it's DGoon who does it,
Yeah,
isn't it?
DGoon.
Yeah. So I would say burner phones. I mean, that burner phones have been used for everything. We all know this, you know. It doesn't take a genius to know about burner phones, but yeah, I would say if that burner killing off the burner phone economy would be probably more detrimental to Monero than delisting it on an exchange, honestly, cuz as long as you can get any crypto, as long as it's KYC free, you're golden. And I know, you know, some people be like, okay, Bitcoin, chain analysis, you know, there's a chance that they might figure out who you are. I get that there's that risk. But it's hard to say, you know, it's hard to say really at the end of the day what happens, because I mean, it's really 50-50, but I feel like we have that momentum behind us. I feel like, right, if the government was going to shut it down and ban it, they would have done it in the early days, because we're already here. We're already established. Businesses are starting to accept it. People are starting to use it. Even if they use it as an investment, they're using it, right? Not, and I get the ideal situation is buy, hold, replace, you know, all that. But even using it as a financial investment vehicle is better, because that means, hey, people recognize it, people acknowledge it, people know it's here. And now the thing is getting that information out there, saying, hey, it's cool. It's not an investment vehicle. It's a currency, right? It's cash, you know, getting that information that it's digital cash out there helps. And then informing people, hey, Bitcoin is good, but there happens to be better digital cash payment systems like Monero. And that's one thing we have to focus on, is making sure that the momentum stays, right? Because like Alaska was saying, is they're using the manipulation, the control, right? Saying, "Oh, we're going to ban it." It's like, no, you can't ban it. Like, you literally can't. Like, they've tried it in China, like how many times? Like 50 times they've tried to ban it in China. Not an exact number. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, they've tried to ban it so many times in China, and China is like one of the most biggest powerhouses for Bitcoin, you know. And I could only imagine what the case in China for Monero would be. I imagine it would be just as big down there, possibly.
All right, guys. Let's wrap it up here. I need to get outside.
That's a good excuse.
Touch grass.
I recommend you guys do the same. That's what we're here for, right? All right, guys. This was awesome. Alaska Anon, thanks for jumping on as always. Except Crypto, thanks for being our guest this week. You could
Thank
pop
you.
in at a future date. Let us know how it's going, how it's progressing with your efforts with that website. It's a cool initiative. Alaska Anon, anything you want to say about the phones, about the how's it going? You want to put the word out again?
The team has gotten bigger. The Onion site should be up soon. And the only other thing that I would tell people is every single order is now filled and ready to go. It's basically impossible to keep in inventory right now. But if the ideal situation is if there's anyone out there who's already strongly advocating for privacy phones and easy to use privacy phones or whatever, and you're tech proficient and people ask you about them, we're here to be the people who put privacy phones in the technological ignoramus, right? It's not a slant on anybody's character, but there are a lot of people who are not interested in learning about all of the ins and outs of getting a private phone. But I feel like we are basically ready at this point where if anybody has, a grandma, an uncle, a nephew or whatever that starts their anti-government rant and they're spying on us and blah, 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 you can now point them in the direction of the Get Graphene OS project and we will handle the rest. You're not going to have to teach them about, how apps work and all of that stuff. And more to come soon, probably by the end of this upcoming week. We might even already have the Onion site up as well.
Fantastic. All right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you, everybody. Tuxedo, thanks for running the show.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, guys. Appreciate talking to y'all.
Bawdy,
Thank you.
Bawdy, thanks for the price report, and DGoon, thanks for doing the dev report. Tony, thank you for the news. Hopefully, we'll get you coming on live again soon. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you again next week, same time, Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern.
Sweet.
Ciao.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Monerotopia episode. We stream live shows every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can find and subscribe to our show on YouTube and Odyssey, or listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or join us in the Monerotopia Telegram group.